From the tri-state area's most complete news gathering facility, it's Eyewitness News at 9 with Jim Bracciano, Ted Hall, Lisa Showalter, and Ron Rempe.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Mountain State Beet Growers Association has reached a tentative agreement with Great Western Company to purchase the facilities in Colorado and Kansas. The agreement was reached early yesterday morning in negotiations being held in Dallas. It is subject to approval from the bankruptcy court in Dallas. President of the Mountain State Beet Growers Association, Pete Pratt of Burlington, made the announcement yesterday morning. Efforts will begin immediately to obtain the acreage in Kansas and Colorado for the growth of sugar beets. At last report, only about 9,000 acres of beets had been committed by growers in this area. Another 14,000 in our district will bring the Kemp factory to capacity, but it is believed that a total of 15,000 acres would assure Kemp's survival this year. Nevertheless, Pratt stressed the importance of growers signing up immediately. The agreement is to be finalized by Monday or Tuesday. As was our very own Ted Hall. And we'll have more news right after this.
If Lisa can talk. Cuts in military aid for Turkey.
Well, Dear Abby is often referred to as America's most popular columnist, and now it's official. Abby was named most popular syndicated columnist in Editor and Publishers Magazine's second annual survey of syndicated features. Rankings were based on number of client papers, and Abby led the way with more than 1,000 subscriber newspapers.
We don't know for sure if Abby's a communist. She's a columnist. We've all known people who are better listeners than others. Well, tonight, Doc.
Well, with this being Palm Sunday, it means Easter is just next week, and the State Health Department is warning all parents to be sure to refrigerate Easter eggs. A department spokesman says boiling and dyeing eggs destroys the raw egg's resistance to bacteria. The exteriors of eggshells often harbor bacteria transmitted by the chicken or acquired during handling. So if you happen to find some Easter eggs that you hid last year,
don't eat them this year. Year-old Easter eggs.
We'll take a look at weather right after this. Good evening. It's cloudy and 41 degrees for KSAS News Up to the Minute. I'm Lisa Hall. Secretary of State Schultz says the U.S. would certainly like to see any of the 6 American hostages in Lebanon alive, but he told NBC there has been no diplomatic confirmation that the kidnappers will have some of the hostages appear at a news conference. 17 people died when a plane full of parachutists crashed after takeoff from a rural Georgia airstrip today. A witness reportedly said the plane's engine stalled. Hurricane Gloria is gone but not forgotten. Nearly 1 million people in 6 East Coast states are still without power. Snow already in Kansas. More when we return.
On Kansas 24.
A major winter storm caught northwest Kansas by surprise overnight, dumping up to 5 inches of snow in Goodland and as much as 7 inches in isolated areas. Record-setting temperatures accompanied the snow in Goodland, where the overnight low was 25. The previous record low was 28, set back in 1945. Wichita also set a record today with a high of 43, which is a record low maximum temperature. The old record was 47, set back in 1945. Tonight's weather, very cool with a chance of some more rain, with our low around 35. The clouds are supposed to break tomorrow afternoon, but the high will only be in the mid-40s. For KSAS News Up to the Minute, I'm Lisa Hall. More next hour. The KOA campground in Goodland is not the typical setting for a reunion the caliber of the one this weekend. In a cozy spot in a little camper, a father and son met for the first time. The father, John Croker, went to war not knowing his wife was pregnant, and when he became a prisoner of war, his wife left him, not telling him of his son. Sam Moore, the son, was told several stories, including the death of his real father. So for the entire 31 years of Sam's life, Neither was aware of each other's existence. That all changed when they met for the first time on the phone 2 months ago.
The main shock at first, I guess, was, like you said, he called and I was at work. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Hello, son. It's been a long time." And at that point, you stop and think, my God, what do I do, And right there, you have tears in your eyes. It's just like, here's, the reason I'm here, so forth. Hey, what do you do?
The fact that the two were hidden from each other has not caused resentment from either one. Instead, they look to the future to make up for the time lost.
We have to look forward to the future and the happiness that we can have. Maybe we can have our first Thanksgiving together, our first Christmas, and things like that we can look forward to. I know it'll be a happier time for us all.
The first weekend together was spent catching up on each other's lives through stories and pictures, 31 years worth. 3 days to start building a relationship that will extend from Denver to Creighton, Iowa.
I'm just thrilled that God brought us together, and we're together now, and there's not going to be any more parting. Even though we'll be maybe 1,000 miles apart, we'll still be close to each other.
Good evening, everyone. It's cloudy and 40 degrees. For KSAS News Up to the Minute, I'm Lisa Ha. Wichita-based Beech Aircraft is being sued for $170 million. The suit filed in Wichita is by several California companies. It concerns the aircraft company's alleged repossession of several planes. The plaintiffs claim Beech financed the purchase of several light planes, but charged too much and later foreclosed illegally on the accounts. The plaintiffs also contend that Beech salespeople misrepresented the capability of the planes, saying they would not hold as many passengers nor fly as high or fast as Beech claimed. Heavy equipment began going through what used to be the Juarez Hospital in Mexico City. Chances are slim that any of the scores of people trapped in the rubble from this month's killer quakes are alive. Celebrities in the U.S. and Latin America got together by satellite today to raise money for Mexico. A spokesman for the 12-hour telethon says that by midday, $1 million had been pledged in the U.S. alone. We'll have more right after this.
Everyone weeknights at 11:30 on KSAS, Kansas.
Movie director Steven Spielberg helped begin a search for a real-life E.T. today. He threw a switch on a giant antenna that astronomers hope will detect radio signals sent from outer space. The weather a little closer to home looks like this. Very cool tonight with a low around 35 degrees. The clouds will continue in the morning, and our high tomorrow will be in the mid-40s. For KSAS News Up to the Minute, I'm Lisa Ha. Good night.
This is CBS.
Next on the Eyewitness Nightcast, a shooting spree carves a bloody path across northwest Kansas. In its wake, 4 people are dead, including a wounded sheriff's deputy, and 3 suspects are in custody after a farmland shootout. You'll hear from a reporter just returned from the scene and from the sheriff who helped bring the situation under control. All this and more next on the Eyewitness Nightcast.
Eyewitness News Nightcast with Roger Cornish and Susan Peters. Merrill's Pinpoint Forecast and Sports with Bruce Hurdle. Now, the news Wichita is watching.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Roger Cornish. A bloody killing spree late this afternoon in northwest Kansas. Before the shootout had ended, 4 people were dead, at least 2 others injured. Ted Hall has been covering the story from the start and now joins us in the studio. Ted, take us through this bizarre shooting.
Well, Roger, as we understand it, here's how the shooting spree started. The manager of an interstate restaurant was gunned down and killed in Grainfield. The suspects then drove to Levant, where a sheriff's deputy and the manager of a local grain elevator were shot and injured. An unconfirmed report says 2 hostages were taken by the suspects. They were shot and killed as well. A high-speed chase ended about 10 miles south of Atwood, where one of the suspects was shot and killed. 3 others were captured. Now, this picture you're seeing now is just south of Atwood, where the gunmen were finally stopped. Here, the law enforcement were forced to shoot through their windshields, and they killed the driver. Now, there were up to 3 other people in the truck at the time. All but 1 were taken to the Citizens Medical Center in Colby. The 4th was brought to the Colby Police Department. They have released no names at this time, and I believe that a press conference has been set for just a few moments from this time, Roger. But right now, we don't know anything except that they are reported to be from Michigan, and this picture is from Levant, Kansas, where they shot one of the suspects, or one of the people was injured in the grain elevator at this time in Levant. He was the manager trying to call the police at the time. And again, not many details at this time are available.
No word on what led to this or why it happened.
That's got to be the biggest question of all. There's no word as to why. We can only expect that something like money. They needed money. They're reported to be from Michigan. They had Michigan driver's tags on their car, and that's all we know at this time.
All right, Ted, thank you very much. Joining us now live on the phone is Rawlins County Sheriff Larry Jones.
Council. What apparently began as a holdup has ended in violence and death in Kansas. Ted Hall of KWCH-TV reports.
4 people were killed and 4 others wounded in a cold-blooded shooting spree in western Kansas yesterday. The tragedy ended just south of Atwood, Kansas, when 4 suspects were forced off the road by law enforcement officials. The driver of the truck was killed and 2 others wounded. The tragedy started in Grainfield, where suspects robbed a restaurant, shot and killed a man, and headed west on Interstate 70. A sheriff's deputy was shot and wounded by suspects about 30 minutes later just west of Colby. From there, the trail of terror went to Levant. There, the suspects gunned down the manager of a grain elevator as he tried to phone police. 2 hostages were then executed and dumped out the back of a stolen pickup truck. Authorities believe the group of gunmen came from Michigan, and at this point believe the motive of the killings may have been robbery. The investigation is continuing today. Ted Hall, CBS News, Colby, Kansas.
Philippine rebel groups are claiming responsibility for the latest hotel fire.
Out of the courts and onto the courts now, where once upon a time, tonight's scheduled Big 8 clash between Kansas and Oklahoma would have been called Titanic. But the Sooners nosedive, 4 conference losses among their 5 defeats overall, and the Jayhawks' title-clinching win on Saturday has reduced this game to just another Big 8 conference match between 2 very good teams. Ted Hall says Kansas will still be up for the Sooners and will be very wary.
They celebrated in Lawrence Saturday after the Jayhawks beat Kansas State to capture the Big 8 championship for the first time in 8 years. But the celebration was short-lived. The grim reality of the Sooners was just around the corner.
Oh, yeah, we got to get right back to business tomorrow. We'll be down to earth, and the coach will really get us prepared, and we got something settled down in Norman on Monday night.
Turnover on Oklahoma.
The Big 8 Titans clashed in January. The Jayhawks on their home wood clutched to a 98-92 win. But visitors winning in Norman is like walking on water. It's very rarely done. The Sooners have won 48 straight games at home.
They've always had a great team. You know, when you consider Wayman was there for 3 years, and they had some pretty good athletes with them, you would expect to have some success at home, and that's probably it. They've had quality teams. I don't buy this thing about home court advantage as much as great teams playing in home courts.
Wayman Tisdale really helped the record out when he was there, and now they're starting to carry it on more. And you know, we're looking forward to playing down there. They're going to have to lose one of these times, and hopefully we think it'll be Monday.
You might think with the conference championship already in the bag, Kansas might coast through their last few games before tournament time. But that's not going to happen.
It's becoming the big rivalry between KU and Oklahoma, and you know, we can't be satisfied with just winning the Big 8 championship. We still have some games left.
Right now, we're just playing on pride. You know, we just want to go out, finish up strong, and get ready for the Big 8 tournament.
No letdowns?
No letdowns. We can't have any.
With the conference title won, celebration has begun to give way to tension. The crown would be tarnished if the Big 8 champions were to lose to Oklahoma. In Lawrence, Kansas, Ted Hall, ESPN.
That Kansas-Oklahoma matchup is part 2 of our live college hoop offering tonight on ESPN. It begins at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right after the Big East game between Pitt and the University of Connecticut. That game begins right after the Sports Center.
It's a big if. They'll have one of the top seeds, you would imagine, and stay right in the same general area where they play for the NCAA tournament. Big game Monday. Let's take a look now at the Jayhawks. Here's Ted Hall.
Saturday, they won the Big 8 championship. They have the big-name player in Danny Manning, but the feeling is the team's success comes from experience. All 5 starters are back from last year's Jayhawks that hoarded 26 wins.
That's the most important thing about our team is, we have a lot of experience on our team. We're playing smart, and we really concentrate on what Coach Brown wants us to do.
We're wiser, and, we're growing, and we're together more now, and Coach has done a great job with us.
But you won't win many games with only 5 players. You need a bench. The Jayhawks bench has been questioned all season long, except by the Jayhawks.
Our bench has done everything I've asked them to do. We wouldn't have won as many games as we have won with the weak bench. We've been known to get in foul trouble, and our bench has made a significant contribution. But fortunately, I'm the coach, and I'm pleased with what our bench has done.
This team from the wheat fields of the Midwest feels something has to be shown to the rest of the nation, that a team can come out of the Big 8 and harvest their way to the Final Four.
A couple of years ago, we kept saying, well, wait till next year. Wait till next year. It's no more next year for me. This is it. So we got to go out every night and really give it our best.
In Lawrence, Kansas, I'm Ted Hall for the College Basketball Report.
Number 2 in the country.
The next week and a half or so, and they have St. Francis going against Oberlin and Moreland at Utica, both boys and girls trying to pick up wins there. Well, Brigham Young's football players and coaches feel that they deserve the #1 ranking in the nation, but many people say they don't deserve it because of the Cougars' light schedule. But tonight, that is being decided in the Holiday Bowl. #1 ranked BYU is taking on unranked Michigan. BYU quarterback Ronnie Bosco was injured in the early going, but he came back in the second quarter and led the Cougars to a touchdown on an 11-yard run by Kelly Smith. BYU led 7-0. Then, still in the second quarter, Michigan came back with Rogers' 5-yard touchdown run after they had a field goal called back because of a BYU penalty. Score then tied at 7 apiece. BYU scored a 20-yard field goal. 4 seconds left in the half. The score stands at 10-7. The bowl picture is just beginning this season, however. There are 3 bowl games to be played tomorrow. The National Football League is gearing up for their playoffs as well. Both conference wildcard games are set for this weekend, beginning with the AFC clash tomorrow. The matchup, the defending Super Bowl champion LA Raiders test the Seahawks in the Kingdome at Seattle. The Hawks are 12-4, the Raiders 11-5. Both ended the regular campaign on a sour note, however. And then on Sunday, the NFC wildcard game finds the New York Giants playing the LA Rams in Anaheim. The Giants 9-7, the Rams at 10-6. When the Seattle Seahawks lost running back Kurt Warner to a knee injury for the whole year, there seemed really little hope for the team, but they pulled together and ended up a strong 12-4. For his efforts, Coach Chuck Knox has been named AP Coach of the Year in the NFL. He was a unanimous choice for the award, although the folks in Denver might be understandably upset as Dan Reeves did a tremendous job this season with the Broncos. It has been disclosed that quarterback Gary Hogeboom has signed a new 3-year contract with the Dallas Cowboys. Hogeboom has been the on-again, off-again starting quarterback for Tom Landry, but what about Danny White? Neither quarterback was really happy with the situation this past season. Landry said he would resolve it, and who knows, Danny White could be playing for a new team in 1985. Saying that it is a dream come true, Cincinnati businesswoman Marge Schott today announced that she is the new majority owner of the Cincinnati Reds baseball team. Schott is one of 11 minority partners on the team, and she bought the National League club from James and William Williams, a pair of brothers who controlled the team since 1981. The Williams say they are selling for personal reasons. No price was mentioned. New York Yankees manager Yogi Berra anticipates no trouble in treating his son Dale like any other player on the team. Said the elder Berra yesterday, if he makes it, he plays. If he doesn't, he sits. The Yanks got the veteran infielder in a package deal with Pittsburgh. The plans are to platoon him at third. As part of the trade, Steve Kemp went to the Pirates. Meanwhile, veteran right-hander Bert Hooten will pitch for the Texas Rangers next year. Hooten, who played 10 seasons with the LA Dodgers, signed a 2-year contract yesterday. He went through the free agent draft after a 3-6 season. Well, every Friday night, we try to bring you a peek at the lighter side of professional sports. This is Ron Rempe's favorite part of our weekly sportscast. This is Warner Wolf's Plays of the Week.
First of all, the steal and dunk of the week last night. Ken Bannister of the Knicks, steal and stuff.
Eyewitness News, I'm Lisa Showalter.
Did you accomplish your caroling this evening? No, and I'm disappointed. Earlier I said that I had a chance to go caroling and I was going to take it up. I didn't do it. I haven't gone caroling yet this year. How about you?
No, I have not been caroling. Tonight would have indeed been an ideal time. I think it's the first time this week we didn't have fog all over.
It's a good chance not to get hit by cars and things like that.
That's important. Clear and cold tonight. Those are the weather words. It's going to be cold indeed, low at about 10 degrees. Hope your weekend is a very good one. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our show. Just a few days before Christmas, I'm Jim Braciano.
I'm Ted Hall.
Ted, I don't know what to tell you about this time of year. It's almost like before we got into basketball. It's almost into limbo land. A few games left this week, though.
Just, what do we have? Just 2 or 3 on the lineup this week, but we still have a pretty packed show. There's a lot of things that, even this late in the high school sports season, we still have a little bit of football to look at.
We can't forget football, and we're going to have a special honor, I guess is what you could call it, on our show this week. It has to do with football, but first off, we have to get on with our prep profile of the week.
You bet. It's always one of our favorite parts of the show. This time our prep profile falls on Julie Kennedy from Golden Plains. Looking around at this winter wonderland right now, it's hard to believe that anyone could venture out into the biting cold, let alone have fun in it, or play softball in it. Tomorrow, 15 teams will take part in the Snowball Softball Tournament, and yes, they will be playing outside. But why?
Well, I guess because it's a good time and it's fun to go out and play in the snow. You always want to go out and make snowmen anyway, so you might as well go out and run around the bases and look like idiots.
7 inches of snow on the ground should have very little effect on outfield play. Here you go. It should have.
Got 15 teams in it. And we're really glad that we did get that kind of participation. It goes to show that there are more fools around here than we thought.
Play on the infield, however, is going to be extremely difficult, especially for the umpires. You see, I'm standing on third base. Did you play last year, and how did you do?
We got beat out the first day, so we weren't in the tournament very long.
But real baseball enthusiasts know that the true test is going to come right here at the plate. The tournament will begin at 9:30 tomorrow morning, and the championship game is at 2:30 on Sunday. All the proceeds go towards the March of Dimes. We want to wish all these winter warriors luck, but they'll never beat KLOE's team.
They'll be out the first day.
Maybe. Ted Hall, KLOE Sports.
Webster's dictionary defines rattlesnakes as being very poisonous. But apparently that doesn't bother 58-year-old Joe Kuntz of Yuma, Colorado. With nothing to protect himself but 2 homemade snake snatcher sticks, he wears no special boots or gloves. Joe, who during the week sells electronic parts, works his way around prairie dog towns, garbage dumps, anywhere rattlesnakes can be found.
In the prairie dog town, you find anywhere from 20 to 150 every afternoon you want to go out.
Catching more than 100 rattlers in one afternoon is really nothing unusual for Joe. In 2 hours' time, he pulled 188 snakes from a garbage pit.
The highest I've ever caught was 459 in 1 year, fall of the year, and I've gotten down to 125, 130. So on an average, I suppose, somewhere around 13,000, I suppose.
Although he deals with very many snakes, Joe has been bit only once, 41 years ago. And that, believe it or not, was what got him interested in snake hunting. He doesn't have anything in particular he does with the snakes after he catches them. Often he has souvenirs made from them, such as ties, belts, or wallets. And Joe, his wife, and 2 daughters all enjoy catching rattlesnakes, sometimes as a family. There's no money in this for him, strictly excitement. So what do we need to know if we decide to take up this exhilarating activity?
Just watch the ground, don't be looking around other places. But normally a rattlesnake is more scared of you than you are of them. And unless you startle them or something, they normally don't strike.
Normally. That wasn't too much comfort when Joe took me rattlesnake hunting. We didn't have much luck, though. We only saw one.
There's one on the hole. Just go around the other side, watching the weeds there as you go by. Come up on him pretty easy.
You want me to get this one?
You go ahead and see if you can grab him. Get him before he goes down.
He got down.
He got down the hole. Oh, heck, we missed him.
Oh, man, that's all right. I didn't really want him anyway.
Great experience.
Well, maybe we were lucky we only saw one.
I'm going to hunt them all my life. I've no revenge or anything like that. It's just the sport of hunting them.
For many men, it's the leisure of fishing. For Joe Kuntz, it's the excitement of catching rattlesnakes. For News 10, I'm Ted Hall.
Yesterday's sporting extravaganza, the annual KLOE Crazy and Citizens State Bank softball game, was the type of event that leaves people speechless. The play was crisp. The batting, the best you've ever seen. And the people who came out to witness this event were enraptured in the game. Now, KLOE was down 1-0 through the first portion of the game in a fantastic fielding effort by both teams. But then the batters on both teams really got down to work, sending balls this way and that. The sluggers from the Citizens State Bank and Saney even broke a bat or two. When the bats started pounding, the runs started scoring for both teams. And then the baseball was a thing for sore eyes. Well, in the end, KLOE scored just a few more runs than the Citizens State Bank, but it was all for fun and to benefit the Senior Citizen Center in St. Francis. For News 10, I'm Ted Little Slugger Hall.
Gary Amble hung in there for us. Cold temperatures but clear skies greeted the Jayhawks baseball season opener today. It was a doubleheader with Missouri Southern. In the bottom of the second inning, KU catcher Daryl Matthews pops up the ball into right field. Sacrifice fly. KU third baseman Rob Peters holds at 3 and then skates. Peters beats the throw. The Jayhawks take the lead 1-0. In the top of the third, however, Missouri Southern took off. Starting pitcher Steve Purdy gave up 3 hits and 4 runs in the third, and the Jayhawks were down 4-1 at that time, but they came back in the first game to win it 16-6. In the second game, in the 6th inning, they lead it 4-1. While the season opened for the baseball team, the regular season comes to a close tomorrow for the basketball team. The Jayhawks host Iowa State, the only conference team to get the better of KU this season, along with playing the Cyclones, who consistently give Larry Brown's team fits. This will be the final home game for the 3 seniors.
My family song.
We're not going to be hearing that song much longer.
No more Jayhawk Shuffle?
No more Jayhawk Shuffle.
That's too bad. We'll be back with a final look at the news in a moment.
It wasn't an ideal day for a parade, but it was held nonetheless. Lisa Showalter has that story.
Hispanic Heritage was celebrated this week in Goodland as people turned out regardless of the lackluster weather picture Saturday. Locally, the 5th annual fiesta is held in conjunction with the celebration of Mexico's independence. Mexico gained their independence on this date 67 years ago in 1917. The area director of Harvest America, Guadalupe Rodriguez, said that he was pleased with this week's activities, including the parade.
Well, this is the first year that we've had our parade. We're hoping to make it into an annual event that every year that we hold our Hispanic Heritage Week Fiesta, that we also have a parade.
The executive director in Kansas, Mark Marcona, says that the purpose of Harvest America is to watch over the needs of migrant seasonal workers in the state, and he tells us why he came to Goodland to celebrate in the fiesta.
Harvest America is very proud that we initiated the festivities 4 years ago here in Goodland, so I always come to Goodland because I guess it's my sentimental favorite.
One of the key speakers at the free luncheon was Jaime Apodaca, who is a top official in the state on Mexican-American affairs. Apodaca stressed that facts from a recently published report on Mexican education were very disturbing.
I would stress the fact that the Department of Education in the state of Kansas needs to pay more attention to problems of bilingual education, needs to pay more attention to the problem of inadequate administrators in the public school system, and inadequate number of educators, period.
Apodaca stated that the main reason for bilingual education being so poor was due to lack of funding, funding which 40th District Senator Richard Gannon is lobbying for.
Naturally, the Hispanics in this area are up against many organizations, minorities from around the state. Sedgwick County, which is Wichita, of course, they're very competitive. As a matter of fact, I believe they even employ people to lobby in their behalf before the legislature. The Hispanic population cannot do that, so it's up to me to do their lobbying for them.
10. Learning about Hispanic heritage, I'm Lisa Showalter, News 10.
Well,
altogether, so not good news. Some good news is that the Lawrence High gymnastics team went down to a tournament in Wichita South on Saturday. They took first place, and Chris Sherman individually won 6 out of 7 events.
Wow.
A good performance.
That's a good performance. You really like that instant replay for them.
I do. I've seen so many games where the calls have been blatantly wrong and they have actually cost the game, so I do like it.
Okay. Thanks, Ted. We'll be back right after this.
The Lawrence High coaches were a little bit worried about this game with Topeka tonight, but the way it turned out, I don't think they had any reason to be whatsoever. A beautiful night for the Lions. Bill Sutter scored first for the Lions, a 3-yard dash, hangs on to his balance there, pops into the end zone. The next score also came from the 3-yard line, but on the opposite end of the field, David Vaughn loops one up to Pat Carlin. He is going to race 97 yards. Nobody's going to catch that skatester. He also had a 24-yard pass touchdown, a 36-yard punt return for a score, and a 42-yard interception, all for scores, 4 touchdowns for Pat Carlin this evening. David Vaughn, the quarterback, was 3 for 3, 3 touchdowns, 182 yards, including this 61-yard score to Shane Courtney. The score was 42-0 at the half. The final, 48-6. Well, I guess we got a shot on me here. First of all, I got to explain that Chad stuff. Ted Hall, for some reason, is a very difficult name to remember. I call people on the phone and I say, hello, this is Ted Hall from Channel 12. They go, who? I go, Ted. They go, Chad? I go, no, Ted, T-E-D. And so I explained that to some of the folks that work here, that I always have a hard time with my name, Ted Hall. And so I've kind of picked up the name Chad just by accident. So they were just kind of giving me a hard time there. Real funny. Real funny. Loved it. Special guest here this morning. Can we get a picture of Big Heathcliff here? That's Heath. Heath Schroeder. He's Channel 12's #1 fan. I met Heath just a little while ago. How long ago was it? Maybe just a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago?
Yeah.
Almost when I first got here. And Heath came into the station with his mom, and he just all of a sudden started sprouting off the names of all the people on Channel 12 that he knows, that he watches, that he has autographs of. And why do you like Channel 12, Guy?
Well, because they have some people I like.
Like who?
Like you and...
Hey, I like this. Okay. Go ahead.
And Ken.
You like Ken Root? Who else do you like? You get to watch he watches the morning show here. You watch it just about every morning, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do that? Why do you get up so early?
Well, because I have to be on the bus at 7:30 and then I get to school at 8, then we start working.
Okay, so you're up pretty early. When I was his age, I remember I tried to sleep this close to school time. I wouldn't get up to watch any TV show. By the way, he goes to school at Union Valley. Do you want to say hi to anybody at Union Valley?
Hi, teachers that's watching.
Good, man. Some of your teachers are watching, huh? Did you tell anybody that you were going to be on today?
Yeah.
Did you? You are probably one of the biggest fans that we have. That's why we're calling you the #1 fan. You've got autographs of just about everybody. Can you show me your collection of autographs there? Just tell me who you've got.
Well, I got
Kurt Schmitz and
Kurt
Dave
Schmidt
Grant. Kind of
and
hard to
Dave
read
Grant.
this writing.
And
Especially Grant's
and,
there. Roger N. Wilson.
Roger and Wilson.
Who else you got?
John Funches.
Whoa.
Ken Root.
Oh, that one there. That one looks like it's worth money. Who's that from?
Ted.
Who else?
Sandra Lee.
You got Sandra Lee.
Merle Teller.
Okay.
And Julie Becker and Freddie Fudd. And Kevin Nunn.
You got Nunn. And then a big picture of Kenny Root, huh? You got anybody else? Ooh, who's that?
And Susan Peters.
My guy. Thanks for coming on. Let's take a look at the weather now, so Heath will know what to expect as he goes to school today. The current conditions across the state, if we could maybe. Okay, we're going to have to wait a little while. Let's have you read these off. Can you read these off for me? Current conditions across the state.
Wichita has 42 degrees, Hutchinson 42, Concordia 43, Goodland 34, and Dodge City with 42.
Good man. All right. This guy's okay. The forecast for the state today.
This is Eyewitness Newsbreak with Ted Hall.
Good morning. It is 8:25, 7:25 Mountain Time. The managers at that Goddard trailer park where residents are upset over eviction notices answered that criticism last night. Lydia Tobin says the problems at the park are between tenants, not between tenants and management. She says to stop the problem, she's given eviction notices to 2 families she says are the heart of the problems. Tobin says not everyone at the trailer park is upset with living there, and she feels it's a very small problem in proportion. Firefighters feared the worst as they battled a house fire on Wichita's southeast side early this morning. The blaze broke out just before 3 o'clock this morning at 3380 Munger Lane.
Sandra Lee, Eyewitness News at the Holiday Inn in downtown Wichita.
We'll take a look at weather in just a moment. Highs in the 70s, lows 30s, and 40s. Sandra Lee will have more at noon. Join us then. Goodbye.
This has been Eyewitness Newsbreak with Ted Hall. The CBS Morning.
All year long, Thomas County is celebrating their centennial. The one thing that is most prevalent is the statue that commemorates the 100 years. The statue named Spirit of the Prairie is being created by a Leota artist, Charlie Norton.
We feel that the pioneer mother and child probably is the backbone of early agriculture, early population in the area, and some of them thought it should be a man, which would be fine. Maybe eventually we can do a man doing it too. I'm trying to give a good feeling about those early times and not the gloomier years we generally think of, which I think most people are thinking of the Depression in the 30s as opposed to in the 1880s.
At first glance, the Spirit looks as if she's almost complete, but she's really only in the beginning stages. Charlie has to first finish the clay sculpture, then a mold will be made. Wax poured into the mold, and onto the wax mold, the brass will be laid. One of the final steps, melting the wax from inside the bronze. There is already a completed Spirit of the Prairie, but in a much smaller form.
I started in with a small working model, which is roughly 3 feet high. And after I did the small piece, then I scale that up, 3 1/4 to 1 ratio. And so I end up with a 9.5 foot sculpture. And when it's completed, I hope it's not too much over a ton. That's still a lot of bronze.
Charlie Norton's talent is truly a gift, as he is a completely self-taught artist. He hasn't gone to an art school or taken any lessons, and yet he can create such a detailed, lifelike sculpture that will last for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. For Eyewitness News, I'm Lisa Showalter, Leota.
The sports, and of course a lot of fans in the state know about KU and their big victory and all of that, but a lot of people are also very proud of those Wildcats.
And they should be.
Exactly right. They've got cause. Around 3,000 Wildcat fans assured the K-State basketball team that they are not forgotten. The Cats were sort of brushed aside at the end of this season. The Kansas Jayhawks won the national championship and grabbed everyone's attention. Today, the Final 8 Kansas State Wildcats whooped it up. This team put Kansas State back on the basketball map. Kansas State President John Weefald was quick to remind the fans who it was that broke KU's home winning streak. Of course, it was the Mighty Cats. Tomorrow is the first big day at the Kansas Relays. Hundreds of high school and college athletes will compete. Today, the Relays heptathlon and decathlon events wrapped up. 2 Jayhawks took the gold on a short walk home. And tell your favorite fishermen. On Thursday nights here on Eyewitness News, we'll bring you the fishing conditions at area lakes. The 49 Fish Finder will just give you an idea of where to go on the weekend. Today, at just about every lake, both crappie and channel cat fishing are good. So here's some different fish that are hitting. At both Tuttle and Melbourne, the white bass are good. You need to go up the rivers. At Shawnee State Lake, largemouth bass are good on the shoreline. Douglas State Lake claims to have excellent crappie and largemouth bass. Free agency is really nothing new to Washburn football players. We had one last year, Charlie Bennett. We've had a few through the years, Washburn kids going to the NFL. But having one drafted, I think, if I'm not mistaken, would be the first time ever for Washburn to have a player drafted. And it looks like Troy might be that guy.
That'd be great for the program as well as Troy.
It would be very good. The Topeka Halfway House, which helps folks coming out of jail or with other social problems, is getting some help themselves. This weekend, it's a hole-in-one tournament at the Sports Center.
If you hit the cup with one shot on any of their 9 holes, you'll get a 25-inch color TV, $450 in cash, a weekend for 2 or more. Now, folks that know me know 2 things. I'm greedy, and I'm a terrible golfer.
5 iron, I'd say. Oh, and he caught that one just right. It looks like it could go.
So where's the Volvo? Hit a hole-in-one on 3.
Sure you did.
I did. The folks at home saw me, a hole-in-one on 3. I get the Volvo.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you come back this weekend when we have the contest going on?
Okay, well, you make sure this weekend the oil's changed on that thing, because I'm driving it out of here, okay?
Right.
Okay. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, all day. You just got to head out there to the Sports Center. It's $10. You get 9 tries. Awesome prizes, even great prizes for closest to the pin. It's only $10, so give it a try. And again, it goes to help the halfway house.
And were you telling the truth?
$1 short and a hole early is what he was.
That's right.
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah.
Definitely. We'll catch a lot of bass in here, Ted.
Lou Constantino of Rent Radio knows every fishing hole around. He says this pond north of Topeka is one of his favorites.
First cast of the day. Okay. So now it's your turn.
Okay.
First cast, just checking it out, huh?
The bass were hitting hard. Lou got a kick out of the way I landed a 3-pound hog.
I like the way you're freaking. Boy, if you get yourself a 10-pounder, you're going to have a problem, aren't you? Where did you catch it? Right
There we go. Right there, right up shallow. That's not too bad here.
That's a nice listen to you guys. Did you see that rod bending? He's trying to flip it on shore.
Our new weekend sports anchor, Scott Sable, came along. Using a sassy shad, he brought in 18 bass. Some not so big.
Well, the biggest one I've heard.
It's fishing paradise. Steve and Janet Brown have a farm pond near Stull. They invited us and a few friends to the fishing hole. In Steve's pond, if you don't catch one right away, it's pretty easy to get discouraged. Either they're not hitting the white right now or else they're not hungry. I've had a couple of nibbles, but that's about it. We're going to keep trying. We run into moss a little bit here and there too, so it might end up just going to a minnow. There we go. Did you see that? Yeah. Right on the cast. Now, well, not a monster. Not a monster, but it's the biggest bass caught so far today. Here we go.
Oh, it's huge.
Nice fish, Daniel. Good one, Daniel.
He already has holes.
Altogether tonight we caught 75 bass, including a 4-pounder. Steve also laid into a 20-pound carp.
Oh, Steve.
Let him take it. Let him take it. He'll be back. There's my grass carp. By God, I've been wanting to see one of them for a long time.
I can't believe you got one.
Okay, wait. Oh, he broke it.
But before you start licking your chops, fishing here is by invitation only. And he lifted the Ichabods to the pinnacle of the Big Top with the national championship.
Number one.
You agree?
Best team in the nation for 3 years. They're best team in the nation.
Half the day of my life, man. We're number one. I'm going to Japan. Hey, I'm going to Japan.
This is the greatest team I have seen, and that bar's in the NCAA or what?
It's the best feeling in the world. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. We went through a whole lot this season.
I got the word for it.
Okay.
It's totally awesome.
That's it.
Yeah!
That'll work. We don't remember the last time we lost. This team doesn't know how to lose, and we weren't going to let anybody beat us. And it's just great teamwork, I think, and I'm just proud of the whole team.
Any tears?
Oh, lots. I'm so excited. I'm still shedding tears. The guys worked so hard for this, and they deserve every bit of it.
Sports reaching new heights. Everybody shifting gears, that's right. ABC Sports reaching new heights. Everybody have fun tonight. ABC Sports reaching new heights.
Tornado-like winds ripped roofs off 2 homes and blew a 32-foot trailer across the highway south of Goodland last night during a severe thunderstorm that produced hail the size of baseballs. A spokesman for the Sherman County Sheriff's Department says no one was injured during the storm, which struck about 8 o'clock last night. Reports of rainfall throughout the city of Goodland ranged from 2.5 to 5.5 inches of rain. 3/4 inch of hail was reported here in Goodland. Rural electric crews were out all night replacing snap poles and restoring power. Reporting for Eyewitness News, I'm Lisa Showalter. Good evening, I'm Lisa Showalter. Oklahoma, Georgia, and other big football schools have won some financial freedom through the Supreme Court. The justices have ruled that universities can make their own TV deals with networks and cable companies. That breaks the hold the National Collegiate Athletic Association had on football games broadcast on TV, and it appears the ruling invalidates this year's NCAA TV contracts. The decision will affect what millions of college football fans see on TV. In the past, the NCAA arranged a package deal for the networks and would limit the number of appearances of any one team. The High Court ruling means that popular teams would be able to get more national exposure and would reduce exposure for less popular teams. What's more, it would mean more money for bigger universities, since the schools are paid for their appearances of televised games. A Kansas City teenager who said he feared for his life when he killed another youth was acquitted yesterday in Jackson County Circuit Court. Jurors deliberated more than 5 hours before finding 17-year-old Raymond Williams innocent in the September 1982 shooting death of 15-year-old Robert Strickland. Williams and his father testified during the trial that Strickland had threatened the Williams family after Strickland was arrested for burglary of the Williams family restaurant. Raymond Williams testified that he took a gun to school and shot Strickland when the victim got off the bus with a shiny object in his hand. Williams said the object, which turned out to be a padlock, appeared to be a gun. The people at Consumer Reports have been chomping at all your favorite fast foods, and the results of their survey, all those burgers take a back seat to none other than Kentucky Fried Chicken. The Colonel got Consumer Reports' highest marks for best overall quality. Next on the trail is Roy Rogers, which barely edged out Wendy's for second place. Both got high marks on their cheeseburgers. While Roy was rated a bit better for his French fries, Wendy's got higher rankings for its chocolate shakes. McDonald's may have finished fourth, but the magazine's tasters rated McDonald's fries the best overall. Finishing in the last 2 places were Hardee's and Arby's. Consumer Reports gave its lowest ratings to Arby's Shake and its main menu item, the Arby's roast beef sandwich. And a look at the weather around Kansas. Widely scattered thunder showers broke out over western Kansas early today, and forecasters say the rain could spread eastward. Today's forecast is for fair skies in the west and partly cloudy skies in the east. Scattered thunder showers are possible in eastern Kansas. The Weather Service says tonight will be partly cloudy with a slight chance of thunderstorms in the central and eastern parts of Kansas. Those should fall into the 60s. An extended outlook for the weekend's weather calls for little or no precipitation. Highs should range in the upper 80s to 90s, and lows should be around 60 in the northwest to 70s in the southeast. Highs yesterday ranged from 90 at Coffeyville and Garden City to an overnight low of 69 at Concordia and Dodge City. For this evening's news, I'm Lisa Showalter.